Hey YouTube, Jolly Green 1990 here with my review of One Piece 1076. I have sadly been spoiled on some stuff. I'm still going to read it. I'm excited for what I've heard. Let's get started. It's cover page. Color we see Luffy on the front with the Dama shoes, and then Vegapunk and Chopper, and then we go below and we see big old Luffy. We see Sanji smoking big old feet. Zoro kind of looking up, swords, Robin looking to the side. Logo right below her. We see Nami holding Chopper. We see Usopp kind of between Sanji's legs and Chopper's legs. We see Jinbei essentially looking, he's above Nami's butt on the right side. And then we essentially see Frankie kind of tipping his glasses going. I like that. Zoro, let's say we free you guys. I can't see you letting us cuff you again later. That's not true, Kakku. We're out of danger. We'll put these restraints on back on with the fight. Luffy, really that? In that case, sure. He's obviously lying. Shing. This is a fruit a lot of people suspected S. Hawk might have, which is the diced fruit. So essentially, Seraphim S. Hawk has the diced fruit of Mr. One, which I think makes sense. Yes, there's potential. I still think it's limited, but I'm curious to see what Oda's going to do with it, and especially with Mihawk, who has as Snake, who essentially, sorry, as Hawk, who has essentially the sword skills possibly of Mihawk. Zoro's even like, what? Isn't that the dice fruit? Love, and you clearly see the green blood. I like that Oda does that. He shows you, okay, here's why. See, you have to keep saving us. You won't get anywhere like this. CP is 0. Let me ask you, Shaka, what was your mission here? Let me need all 7 Vegapunks. Lucci's like, sure, I ain't gonna lie. Lucci, don't just throw it out like that. And I take it you won't let Stussy off the hook for giving her betrayal. That's right. I won't show her any mercy. No emotion, always just straight up. And I like that about his character. Are you trying to convince him not to save us? YouTuber kind of spoiled. I watched kind of talk about how this is essentially between the kind of relationship between Sanji and Zoro, which I like. Yeah, that was Nami. All 4 of these things must be running wild. Here's Zoro essentially talking about that. How are we meant to protect everyone on top of the 7 Vegapunks? Hey, Helmet, give me the cuff keys. I'll leave the decision in your hands. Just protect the cell at all costs. When those 4 guys are out of the way and you realize you cannot beat me, Luffy talking trash, you won't be a sore loser and go after my friends, the Vegapunks, right? You idiot, these guys won't fall for a talent like that. Fat chance. He snaps. You are the top priority on my hit list, you straw-hatted bastard. I won't go out of order, but your friends won't outlive you for long. He took the bait. So, Luffy and then everyone else. And I'm fine with it. I think it's cool. And then all of a sudden we see S. Bear using the original Kuma's ability, Ursus. And then cuffs off, shock, gear forth, gum gum. So a lot of people are talking essentially, it's seen kind of on YouTube like, oh, he's not going to use Gear 4 again. He is, and I like that he's doing it. He doesn't even see a need to go to Gear 5th. Sorry about this, Bonnie. We see Lucci's immediately gone in. And we see Kong Gun, 6 King Gun, Purgatory Unguri, Tempest Kick, White Thunder. So essentially you have Luffy and Lucci versus S. Bear, and then you essentially have Kakku and Zoro versus S. Hawk. And by the looks of it, does some, but very little damage. Need food. Switch to essentially the lab where the prisoners are being held. On this or a spoiler, essentially Vegapunk. Need food. We haven't had a decent meal in over 2 months. I wonder if we'll ever be allowed to leave. Are we going to die here? World Government Agent Intelligence, CP 5, 7, and 8. 2 months ago, when we were meant to set sail, after inspection of Egghead, those weaponized sea beasts attacked us, and we were brought back to this island. Then all the other agents that came to look into disappearance met the same fate too. So I figured you were the one behind it, Dr. Vapor. I like the fact that kind of looks like he's in a. Okay, so I can't really tell if he's in the same page or this different one. But to me, initially it looked like he was a different, but now it looks like he might be the same. Sorry, Dr. Vapor. Sorry, I'm afraid I had no idea. To think this was happening right ahead, right underneath my nose. Dr. Vapor, bleeding a little, chained up, wearing the Dom shoes. How troubling. This whole affair has been baffling. Sorry, word linking the government, but research into the polygriff should have been impossible. So we don't really tell us since we beat him. I'm assuming right when Bonnie went in, he either went in or he waited, and then he was either ambushed by the Seraphim or some of the Navy because he doesn't mention the traitor, so it's kind of like he probably doesn't know at this point. The Navy has successfully deployed from Branch G9. We have over 100 ships of all sizes en route, all heading for Egghead. So this is turning into a full-on brawl, and this I'm ready for. The next part I was spoiled on. Shanks and Kid. I like Kid. I don't think he's at Luffy's level. I think it's Luffy, Law, Shanks. I think Shanks and Zoro are similar because they both have conquerors that have access to it. Zoro doesn't have a devil fruit, but he has his sword skills and the fact that he got Enma. A bar at small port on a certain island in the New World. So one thing I was going to spoil on it based on this dialogue is Ben Beckman was the one who probably took Kid's arm. And so I'm excited to kind of see that we get a flashback or get more added to that because literally Kid didn't even see Shanks in the first encounter. Take me with you. Take me with you. Come on. Don't be a dumb. There's no way I'd bring a hot-headed looking like you. Humph. Why don't you give up? You're making all the other captains jealous. No way. I really look up to the chief. Boss, that bastard's actually attacking us. So far, they've just been scrapping with their youngsters, but what do you want to do? It seems like it'll turn into a full-on battle soon. I don't know whether you call this good or bad timing. We were just about to set off. Guess I lost track. Catching up with her. Can't be helped if you suddenly come across old friends you thought were dead. Shanks is on Elbeth. Bragi and Dory from Little Garden, who Luffy helped essentially rescue and kind of solve the dilemma. And so I'm excited kind of that everything is coming together. The enemy is going to be pissed at you for keeping him waiting. You can't talk back. Do you really think he's the only one they're mad at? Hinting at the fact that Beckman took Kid's arm, which I love. You're going out there to fight Shanks? I'll never let this island become a war zone. Oh, he's so dreamy, isn't it? I don't want to cause any major trouble here. Hey, Dory Broggy, can you lend us a hand? Sure, brother. The fact that they trust him like a brother means he did something and they're willing to fight for him. Before that, can you go check on something for me, Rockstar? Huh? You have a message for Captain Kidd? Poor Rockstar, getting the bear in. I'm curious to see if he's gotten a little stronger because I don't think Kidd's just going to take it. To me, it seems like the mentality to kill the messenger. This island is actually about the home of the most prideful warriors. The fact that it says prideful to me says, okay, Shanks really did something to get them to trust him. And we kind of see some warriors in the back, kind of warriors crew. Yeah, tell him he has a choice. He can either hand over his load Polygriff's rubbings and scram, or he can risk fighting me. Warland, Elbaf, New World. Those ships on the horizon are all his, including the ones like that. I like the fact that we're actually seeing Shanks has a grand fleet, and we're kind of seeing people rally around him. And then later on in the dialogue, we're going to find out essentially that they don't really pay him tribute. He's more of just he protects them because they're his buddies. Seems like he's kind of that chill guy, and it's nice to see that he is the dude. He has the hockey, sword skills. Mihawk's still slightly above, but then also the fact that he's got the crew and now the essentially Grand Fleet to back him up, which he doesn't need by the sounds of so we know, but it's nice to see that he has it. They're all pirate allies of the red-haired pirates. Every one of them seems like a big shot, and they're all sworn to the Emperor. Last time it was completely silent, and you see like my arm, that bastard. They took your arm before we even got a glimpse of it here himself. See, I like Kid and Killer. I think they're a wonderful combo. I just don't think they're on the par where Otis keeps trying to set them up to be with them, the level with Luffy and Law. They're definitely, if you have like one, you have essentially typical pirates, emperors, the new generation, and you have kind of like the right between. And I definitely agree he is stronger than the rest of the new generation. And Killer's getting up there too, but they're not quite there, based on what we've seen at least. And we don't see whether or not Kid has any essentially ships with him. It really looks like it's just his ship, and we see essentially what looks, I think, like Shanks' ship, or at least some ships affiliated with him. I have to think it's more ships affiliated with him because of the fact you have Dory and Bragi have the ship and it's not sinking and we don't see in the background. So I mean the ship's gonna either have to be big enough for giants or it's gonna have to essentially be one of the other allied. They won't settle for an arm this time. They'll take your life instead. Ha ha ha, only if I lose, says Kid. Make way, the chief's coming. We see essentially some girl pirates and some guys kind of just hanging out. Chief, I'm so glad to see your chief. See you, Chief. You too, Beckman. Oh, I feel like we totally owe you protection on you. We don't do that. So I like the fact that he doesn't do that. Basically, see, we are a break, which is sad, but I am excited. This is a really good way to leave off. And so I like the fact that Oda's really setting up the pieces of you have essentially Garp going after Blackbeard. You have Kid at Elbaf. And essentially then you have Shanks kind of actually doing something. So literally you have three islands. You had Hachinosu where Long went, Egghead where Luffy went, and then essentially Elbaf where Kid's at. And I really think you could argue either way, but I think Luffy honestly has the best luck. Because I think if he fought Blackbeard, I think he could escape, but I definitely think there would be injuries. I think his fight with Shanks isn't quite there yet, and so I think Elbaf is good. Sorry, I think Egghead is perfect kind of for him to have to fight some of the government agents, get stronger in a way to all the power ups they haven't quite fully utilized or come in their hand. I think that's actually happens after every arc. They have a little arc where either they butt kick or they have to struggle to fully rein in all those abilities they've learned. And so that's why I think Egghead is a perfect one for Luffy and the crew. And then it's actually going to show the government, hey, we are a Yonko crew, we are a threat. Don't mess with us. And I like the fact with this chapter, you have Luffy kind of going up a little against Lucci, like, I beat you, dude, what? So I was breaking down character, story, pacing. I will have another after this just because of break next week. So I'm going to go real quick through pacing. We're essentially in the stratum with the robots and Lucci or Seraphim and essentially Lucci and Shaka and Zoro and Kaku's group. We have the holding cell where Vegapunk and the other different CP0 agents are. We have outside the island, which you could argue isn't, but I'm still going to say it's part 3. We have essentially the bar at a small port on Elbath, and then literally we have outside of Elbath, essentially, where we see Kid's ship. So I think 5 parts, honestly, that's not bad. Last week's, there was a lot of parts, and there was more just information adding up. This, we actually have more to it. So I would say, honestly, for pacing, 5 out of 5. That was perfect. Not too bad. The only thing I was to say is that little extra piece outside of Egghead, where we see a little information essentially of kind of, hey, with Navy sending G5 ships, we just didn't need that. You could have kept it with another piece, but I think at least that context makes sense for the story port. So let's jump right into the story. Essentially, we have biggest things for me from Shaka and the stuff essentially is straight off the back that we see that story-wise as Hawk has the dice route. That adds more to it. We're going to kind of see probably some later stuff from Mr. 1. We have the fact that Lucci states what their mission is. Lend me the 7 Vegapunks. He's not going to let Lucy go, and then he straight up admits, I'm going after you and the rest, Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats. Perfect to me. Continuing on, we see essentially that Vegapunk and the others agents are locked up in a different area, and then essentially even Vegapunk and the other agents don't know who's really doing it. That's going to lead more to the mystery and the fact that I think Luffy and the others are genuinely going to have to kind of go out of the way and find, so it could be longer than we think. Shanks is at Elbath, and he's allied with the Giant somehow. The strongest military in the world, who typically we know as haven't taken a side, or allied with an emperor, or buddy. I think that's going to lead to complications for the Giants later on if Luffy actually help with that. And then the fact that Kid is there, and all of Shanks' allies. So that's either going to lead to a major W for Kid if he even gets away, or I think it's going to lead to a L. So story that adds up. There's not, I mean, there's stuff there. Last week was a lot more setup. This week, I like that we have a lot more adding to the story, but it's not like stuff we already knew. Some of this is new, essentially, or a lot of this is new. Essentially, we have the dice fruit. We have where Vegapunk's at. We have the fact that ships are on the way. We knew that, so that's a little extra. Okay, fine. But then the fact we knew Kid was about. Okay, fine. But then the fact we have Shanks and all this stuff, the Giants. So I would honestly say maybe I would say a 4 out of 5. Okay, we have a little extra stuff here. Okay, we don't need it, but we have all the new information. Awesome. So right now it's a 9 out of 15. Character. Oh, there's some good stuff. Character. You could argue S Hawk having the dice fruit adds to his character. We haven't seen anything. Literally just the fact that his ability. I would say Kakku and Lucci, their personality back and forth like Zoro and Sanji. I love that relationship, that clash, that joking, and then also the fact that we see Lucci is very much okay. This is the mission, and then Luffy's like, "Hey, are you still going to come after us?" And immediately he switches. So Lucci does snap more to his depth of he's gold, but he's still got his own personality. So I love that with Lucci. Kakku sticking straight to the point. He's got the objective, and we kind of feel that. Saw that earlier. It's lobby and all that. Zoro sticking true to the He's like, hey, let's not do this. But then Shaka is also, I would say, his character trusts Luffy. And he's like, don't forget your objective is Stella, whatever you do else is fine. So Kakku and Lucci. Lucci for going off the rail. Zoro kind of for sticking true to his goal. Luffy for stepping up a little and bad mouthing Lucci, but then staying true. And then Shaka for trusting Luffy. Story wise, I wouldn't really give a whole lot to the Vegapunks and the different agents. The only thing which you could say maybe a little negative is even Vegapunk was completely caught off guard of who the traitor is, kind of what's going on. Character to Shanks. He's staying true to the fact that he's not wanting to take little kids. And the fact that he has such a good relationship with the Giants. Oh, I love that. Dory and Broggy are back. I didn't have that story, but I mean, the characters, they're like this with Shanks. And so it's adding more to the story, but it's also adding more to the depth of Shanks' relationship with Giants, the fact that he met them so many years ago, probably, and the fact that Luffy has the relationship. He's probably is giving Shanks more of, hey, Luffy's turning into the man that he hoped he would be. The fact that he rescued his buddies, he helped them. And then Beckman. I'm gonna say storage. I mean, you could argue your character, yes and no, but literally the fact that Beckman's kind of still trying to stay true to the facts, but even it's like the others, like, hey, this dude's on. So I want to give him. I would say no, but I would say character for Kid and his crew, essentially trusting Kid, even when they know it's not just Shanks, it's his entire crew and the Grand Fleet. They're still willing to go in and trust Kid, and so I give that to Kid. And then going back to Shanks, the fact that Shanks is moving and going after the pony lips and sees Kid, like, give it to me, I will spare you. Still kind of willing to reason with the guy, but and then poor Rockstar. Not really much for him, but just the fact that he is still being the messenger boy. So I liked a lot. I mean, I thought this character, respectively, was much, much better than the last one. I love this details. I love, and it's just Shanks. I mean, Kakku, Luffy, Lucci, Zoro, Shaka, Kid, Killer, Beckman, the rest of the crew, and Shanks. Character, I would give it honestly, I mean, 5 out of 5. You can argue against, but I would give it 5 out. I loved it. I would give this a 14 out of a 15. The biggest thing for me is stories. There's some extra stuff we already still knew. I don't want us to get into the Onigashima portion of Wano. Essentially, we're getting all this extra stuff that we already know, and you're dragging it out. It's like, no, get to the point. We know there's a traitor. Tell us who it is respectfully and move on. Don't spend 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters. One, it was the fire. Who's the traitor? Denjiro. Okay, we, the readers, know, but they don't. The Dragon, no. I don't mind kind of a game of Among Us, and especially now they're giving us more context of all the stuff he's going on in the background. But now get to the point, either tell us who it is or get to the action. That's just who I am. I love the story. I think it's amazing, but especially this chapter, I'm excited that Lord really is setting up these major fights. That is progressing and pushing the story forward. So, 14 out of 15. I'm calling this chapter literally Kids 3 L's. Literally. Lost the Shanks. Lost the Kaido. Think he's going to lose again. There's going to be something going on. It's not going to be a wash, I think, because of how Oda's setting him up. But I still think, ow, for a kid. Sorry. Love this chapter. Tell me your thoughts. Subscribe, like. Joe, good sign out. Bye, YouTube.